3, 2, 1.
Oh, I needed to burp, and I was really hoping I'd burp at the same time as the clap.
You're so gross, honestly. Disgusting.
Disgusting. Right. What if I burp halfway through the intro?
Please don't burp during the intro. That's gross.
Okay, I'll try not to.
And welcome to Escaping Kasterborous, the podcast where we rewatch, reminisce, and review everything Doctor Who from 2005 to present. My name is Rich, and I'm joined by somebody who is currently crying because she wanted to burp during the intro. It's Amy.
I can't breathe.
I hate that we've this particular episode has been opened like this, because if you're watching this on YouTube, we're not on camera, we only did that for the Q&A, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you might have seen a brand new intro that I've done, because I've been dipping my toes back into Blender, which I learned how to use over the last sort of year or so, mainly for putting car models in and doing stuff with cars at my old job. But I decided to make EK its own actual intro, and you can see it on YouTube. I'll probably post it on Twitter as well. But there's a new intro with a TARDIS and a time vortex and 3D text. It looks awesome.
I'm proud of you.
I'm really proud of it, and it looks really good.
It does look really good.
It's surprisingly simple. By my standards anyway, but like the actual process is like, okay, this isn't anywhere near as complicated as I thought. But yeah, I'm Rich. I'm joined by someone who I originally was going to say I'm joined by somebody who's worth at least 10,000 adipose on her own. It's Amy.
Oh, that's mean.
Yeah, it's the week of fat jokes, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, no, I'd rather just burp during the intro.
Yeah, you can burp as much as you like. Some people enjoy that. You're so strange. I don't believe, like, this is how things start for Series 4. Welcome to a new comedic slant on Escaping Kasterborous, in the same way there's a comedic slant in Doctor Who.
Hey.
Because guess who's back? It's old CT, Catherine Tate, back in as Donna...
I was thinking, her name's Donna Noble. That's
My name's Rich. I enjoy Donna Noble, but I can't spell. My God. Aired back on the 5th of April 2008, so a month away from us turning 13?
2008, yes. 13.
13.
I know.
Blimey. We're so young, we're so small, and now we're turning 28 this year.
Ugh.
Rip.
Grim.
But welcome to Series 4. Donna Noble's back. Russell T Davies is writing this particular episode. And of course, David Tennant looks so thin and young, and his hair's amazing. And it's not hair envy; it's definitely hair envy.
It's definitely hair envy, even from me.
I
love his hair.
It's very much hair, much hair envy. But welcome to Series 4. We're finally here. Thank you all for all of your questions for the Q&A. And our previous episode, which we really enjoyed doing, that was really good fun.
Yeah,
we might have to do something like that again in the future if you guys so wish. Let us know over on Twitter at Kasterpod if that's the case, and we'll do something. I don't know, probably halfway through Matt Smith's era or something. We won't do them that frequently because then the novelty will wear off. Instead, we should talk about Doctor Who, which is what we're here to do.
Yes.
So, Partners in Crime.
I love
Series
this episode.
4 begins. Yeah, it's as far as a first episode of a series goes. It is good. It has that kind of, I don't want to say schlocky, but you normally perceive the first episode of a series of Doctor Who in a very different light to the rest of it, because normally it has to do a lot of a groundwork, which admittedly this one doesn't necessarily have to do, because we've already met Donna and we'd met Sylvia in the Runaway Bride, and obviously we met Wilf in Voyage of the Damned. So we already knew all the characters apart from the episode-based characters, like the antagonist, like that reporter who's an idiot, and poor matey who gets his burglar alarm set off all the time. Yeah. So there's not a lot of stuff to actually have to do in this episode. They can kind of get stuck straight into it, but in reality, they don't.
I mean,
for a 50-minute episode, it's paced well enough. It kind of ramps up quite a bit, but they do take things really slow to begin with. They just give you time to get back into this idea of, okay, here's a whole new dynamic, especially since these two have met before.
Yeah.
Let's lead this in such a comedic, sort of almost silly way.
I love it, though.
Yeah.
I think it works
absolutely.
really well. I mean, the thing is about this whole episode opening is the fact that they don't have to do the usual kind of expositionary stuff with introducing the character and the family and their life and all that kind of background stuff that they would do for people like Rose and Martha. So I think it's really fun that the opening shot is literally just Donna walking down a street and you're like, oh, where's this going? Because obviously at the time we must have known that Catherine Tate was announced as the next companion.
Yeah. They literally, at the end of Voyage of the Damned, they literally did a whole coming soon thing.
Yeah. So it's not a shock that you see her, but I think what I love about it so much is that they have this just incredible sequence of them constantly missing each other, and it's really funny to me that they're just constantly like back and forth, and the whole sequence in the office just makes me laugh, especially when David does that thing that became a meme, that became a gif of him just poking his head over the little barrier thing.
Cubicle thing.
I love it. And I think it's just a really, really fun way to kind of introduce the character, and that whole sequence where like she sits and talks to her granddad, and I just think it's really, really sweet. I love it.
Well, that's the big thing about this episode in particular, and that is obviously Donna and the way that she has been changed going into Partners in Crime and going into Series 4 compared to her appearance in The Runaway Bride. I am pretty outspoken, as all of you know, that back in the day I did not like Donna. I really disliked her after The Runaway Bride because she's just a bitch the whole way through. You get a little bit of a twinkle with her when it gets towards the end of the episode when she's telling the doctor that he can stop now when he's drowning the Rachnos, etc. But you don't really like it. And I'm pretty certain I said this after the Voyage of the Damned thing, because I very distinctly remember watching Voyage of the Damned on Christmas Day, seeing the first shot of Donna with Coming Soon, and I just went, oh, for God's sake. I probably didn't say that. I probably was more expletives, and obviously 12-year-old Rich would have got a slap across the wrists by my parents for swearing in front of the TV. But yeah, I was very outspoken in not liking Donna, so I wasn't going into this episode back in the day excited. I think I would have been for the sake of being more Doctor Who, but the idea of it being Catherine Tate back as Donna, I thought it was lazy. I was like, oh, come on, find somebody new. But
I think it works.
Russell's stance on the character, because one of the big criticisms of The Runaway Bride back in 2000 and would have been 6? Yes. Maybe. Was the fact that Donna was so abrasive. Like, she wasn't a character that people could really click with because she was just so short-tempered. She was this very stereotypical middle-class, I hate to say it, Karen before the time of Karens was a thing. Which is more modern.
I feel like it works though, because you get this, like, because of the fact of how she is in this first episode, it's almost like a slight redemption for her character to have changed this much from one interaction with the Doctor, and then having to obviously work her way through the next God knows how long while she's trying to find him. But I didn't dislike Donna's character, I don't think, in The Runaway Bride. I do get what you mean in the criticism. I can understand, because obviously we've come from having Rose and Martha, who are very docile characters who have kind of no issues with anything, to going to Donna, who's literally just like, all right, sunshine, this, that, and the other, you know.
They almost lent into Catherine Tate's ability as an actor and a comedian more so with this portrayal of Donna than it was in the Christmas specials. Obviously, as we discussed before, with Christmas specials, you can kind of take this approach of anything goes.
Yeah.
And with Doctor Who, sometimes it sticks. So, like, Christmas trees becoming Beyblades and attacking stuff in the flat, like, that's very silly, but we'll run with it. Whereas other times, maybe narratives don't work so well because they're kind of a bit sillier. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe, I'm dreading watching again because that was awful.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, sorry. We'll
I've
have to,
erased it
admittedly,
from my memory.
Christmas Carol, which was Matt Smith's
I loved Christmas Carol.
first Christmas special, that was really good. And I think
good.
the rest of his specials at Christmas were not very good.
Crap.
And then we had, was it called Silent Night? Capaldi's first one with Nick Frost as Santa Claus. I remember going into that thinking, I'm dreading this.
I literally
because
haven't got a clue.
Moffat's track, I mean, you don't remember Capaldi's era very well, do
No,
you?
literally
Like,
not at all.
the track record of Moffat's specials at Christmas were always a bit hit or miss, so I was dreading Capaldi's first, but if I remember rightly, it was pretty good. So we always let a bit of schlock through, and that was what Donna was in The Runaway Bride.
Yeah.
She was this loud, schlocky character.
But then I
whereas
think
now
she
they can
needed
go,
to be to juxtapose the Doctor in such a like harsh way.
Yeah.
Because you
But I said
needed
that they-
somebody like that.
they can get away with that more so at Christmas, but I think because of the fact that people did say that Donna grated against them, like critics and stuff were saying that Donna was grating in the Runaway Bride, Russell could not have brought her back for a whole series and done the same thing because she would have been exhaustingly irritating.
But then I don't
So
know
the
whether that
fact
would have.
they,
Sorry.
I was going to say the fact they toned her down was a logical decision,
Yeah.
and a damn good one at that.
Well, I was going to say I don't know whether that would have been Russell's plan, kind of to begin with, in the fact that he brought her back. I feel like if it wasn't, then he obviously did an excellent job at toning down the character. But I feel like you can't really take a character like that and not almost change her perception going into a new series, because if she'd have spent this series being the same character that didn't believe in anything, didn't want to do anything, it never would have worked for a dynamic, and I think Russell probably knew that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was planning it and it just was aided by the fact that the critics were, criticising the sort of attitude of Donna within the Christmas special. But
yeah, absolutely. So this, I'm going to segue before we go on too much about, I've got the next little point I want to talk about. But first of all, Misha on Twitter asked, Rich, considering your negative feelings towards Donna in The Runaway Bride, how many episodes did it take for you to come around to her / like her as a character? I know I've just read myself a question, but here we are.
that's fine.
Honestly, I don't think even by the end of the series, at least when I first watched it, that I ever really came around to liking Donna. Donna as a companion for me, she grew on me more so. Obviously, I'd rewatched Doctor Who a million times anyway, but I think it was, I would say in recent years, it's probably only been like, it may have been when I was like a teenager, when I went to uni, for example, and I was watching Doctor Who in my own time, that I really came back around to Donna as a character. So I wouldn't say there was a specific point in the series I've just gone, you know what? You're actually all right, because obviously she does get better. She does that silliness, the comedic side of Catherine Tate, it continues to come through throughout the course of the series, which obviously we'll discuss on the podcast. But I don't think when it gets towards the end of it and we get to the arc, which obviously we'll talk about in more detail once things start to really kick off with it, the arc still doesn't sit well with me in the way, not in the way that what happened, but how it was like
Portrayed
over the how it was built throughout the course of the series. And there are things we'll talk about the arc, because kind of going back to it, you forget just how much Partners in Crime actually throws on you. Even just little nods, it's amazing how much they throw at you, really, without you almost realizing. So I think for me, for Donna, it was always a case of it was after the fact. It was going back to Doctor Who, back to Series 4, back to this era, to actually for me to have Donna grow on me as a character. But I do remember by the time we finished up with Donna at the end of Series 4, technically not the end of Series 4 because she's back for the specials, but I don't remember being like, do you know what, you're not too bad. I just didn't have any time for her back then.
Yeah.
But I was almost a teenager / was a teenager. Yeah. That's how it was. But the one thing I wanted to segue onto was, while obviously we've got the brand new theme, which obviously we had for the Voyage of the Damned, which is
so good.
the best theme of New Who. Don't at me. It is the best one. Of course, we have what I would argue is also the best companion theme, which is Donna. Just Donna's theme.
As soon as I started playing, I was like, oh my God, I love it.
I remember I played this to you on our speaker in the kitchen once. I played a bit of music and I was like, that, and Amy was there like clawing her eyes out. Like,
I was trying to work
know
out
this
what it
piece
was
of music
from.
and I can't put my finger on where it's from.
Yeah.
And I told you, and it was like,
Obviously.
like, it's incredible. Like, Murray Gold's work on Doctor Who, like, we've only had one, just put it into perspective, we've only had one other composer for New Who, which was Sega Nakanola for the Chibnall era. And while I don't think his music's going to go down as infamously as Murray Gold's stuff, I still think he was a good composer.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, still incredibly talented at the thing. It's just that everything, unfortunately...
Some of the stuff, that the more experimental things he did with the music in the Chibnall era, I did really like. His theme I liked, but not as much as I liked the Series 4 theme.
Yeah,
from
it's
Murray
just
Gold.
that unfortunately most things in the Chibnall era get overshadowed by just how crap most of it is.
Chibnall era.
Yeah, so if you listen to the soundtrack on its own, I'm sure it would be absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, I've literally seen people on Twitter when they were releasing the soundtracks for like the specials that have just gone for the Chibnall era, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, the soundtrack's out! This is amazing. We want the soundtrack," which is great. But Donna's theme, I think it's incredible. It goes to show how much of a talent Murray Gold really is. Because I will say, I'll admit, I got so bored of Murray Gold's work towards the end of his time on the show. I was maybe not so much the actual music itself. I think it was more the usage of it.
Yeah,
in the show.
but then
It
at the
was
same time,
way
you also
too
kind of
overdone.
wonder whether that was Murray Gold's choice or whether he
I
produced
don't think
the music.
I don't think it necessarily would have been his choice,
that's
but
the thing,
the
isn't
fact
it?
they used a recurring motif for the 11th and the 12th Doctor that was so like hammered home, it just got a bit dull.
Much. Yeah.
But Donna's theme, it's amazing how it's such a perfect encapsulation of her character, because even though it's not an overly dramatic theme in itself, it is more of this, here's this character that feels almost a bit out of place. It sort of juxtaposes the scenarios that you'll find her in, and it just works so well, especially when you've got Donna and the Doctor having their little sort of
Back and
culture
forth.
clash.
Yeah.
Because obviously they are two very different people in how that they speak and how they approach situations, and how the Doctor just stands there dumbfounded most of the time. That theme just wraps all that stuff up with a neat little bow, and it's perfect.
And it's got that little comedic element as well, which is kind of like the bouncy, vibey kind of feel to it, where you look at her and you're like, yeah, this music just absolutely suits her character 100%.
I'm looking forward to going to when we're watching this series through to actually pick out as and when it's used.
Yeah.
Because I'm intrigued to know just how frequently it's used, because I can't think off the top of my head when we see it.
Twice in this episode, I think. Once as
it opens with it,
and then once towards the middle to end where they're having a conversation.
So it's great, and this actually works for Easy Hayward's question from Spotify. And they say this ep introduces one of the most recognisable companion themes, but which is your favourite? Mine is Clara's, especially when it's played on the guitar in a final episode. It makes me cry.
Oh God, I can't remember Clara's theme in the slightest.
I feel like I could sing it, like I could dum-dum it to you, but I can't. I don't know if I'd be 100% right.
Yeah.
I can picture it. And yeah, I mean, Clara's theme was a really nice theme.
No, I don't remember it in the slightest.
You don't remember it?
No.
But yeah, Clara's theme was a nice theme for a companion that obviously, as I said, I'm outspoken. I didn't really like Clara.
I mean...
So it's a nice theme, but I still think, apart from probably it's companion theme. So best companion theme, yeah, as I said, is Donna's, I think. 100% is going to be Donna's. But some of the character themes are brilliant. I really miss the Doctor's theme from this era. Just that single falsetto stuff they have. They use it all the time.
I'm not going to do it because I will.
I'm not going to try it. I mean, I could do,
eardrums.
but yeah, exactly. Like, I love that. There's a really good. Somebody did an edit when Jodie regenerated into 14. And they took Sega Nakanola's music that was there for her regeneration and then transitioned it into the more orchestral Doctor's theme from the Russell T Davies era.
Clever.
And it was like, oh my God, am I crying right now? Because it worked, especially seeing Tennant again with that theme. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We still don't know who's back for music. I don't think it's Sega Nakanola. I think he has said that he is done.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately. I wouldn't be surprised if Murray Gold comes back, but I don't know exactly.
I don't know. I feel like I don't remember the music particularly well. Obviously, I know Rose's theme is obviously like the big one that everybody remembers. But Amy and Rory were one of my favourite companion like combos. And as far as I remember, Amy's theme was very good as well. But Donna's just has that way of like sticking in my brain. It's just
Donna's theme works so well for her character, whereas other themes are just there to be, here's a motif that works when we, like, you're going to get used to hearing that motif with this character. So like Clara's theme doesn't necessarily tell you much. It's a very, her theme, if I remember rightly, is it's almost quite tranquil. Even when it's played on Capaldi plays it on his electric guitar in the final episode that she's in, when she flies off in a TARDIS with me. Ugh.
great.
Yeah, great. And it's a very tranquil theme. It doesn't necessarily, I wouldn't say that would work for her character because she's quite this eccentric, big, larger than life character.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons I don't really like her. But but whereas Donna's theme just works so well for her character and who she is.
Yeah, absolutely.
As for moving on to what else we've got to deal with this time, so obviously the Doctor and Donna are chasing each other around, and we have all these lovely shots of the two of them so close together. I completely forgot about the fact that there was I can picture David saying, Donna, your car was where the TARDIS was going to land towards the end of the series.
Yeah.
I'd completely forgotten you actually see the TARDIS land directly behind her car. I'd completely forgotten that had happened. But they're chasing down this adipose thing, just doing a bit of sleuthing. It's a bit of a, I almost compare it to Sarah Jane Smith getting into Jeffrey Vale during school reunion and just seeing, here's some weird stuff, let's go into this. And that's just what Donna was doing it with the intent of finding the Doctor.
Yeah, which makes more sense, really, because, I mean, as she said, she's been looking for him everywhere. And it makes me laugh how she goes, I mean, other than a Titanic flying over Buckingham Palace in Christmas, I don't think that's true. And he just ignores it completely. And I just find that really funny, the fact that she's got that element of, although she believes in stuff now, she's still got that Donna element to her, which is like, oh no, that's not
she's not fully suspended her disbelief. There will be things that will just slip through the cracks. And actually, I'm intrigued to see whether any more stuff like that really happens over the course of this series, as to whether there's something that comes up that she goes, nah, do you know what? I think this is rubbish. You're joking.
No,
really?
I don't think so. I think it's probably because when you're experiencing it, you're not going to really question it, are you? But
no, true.
Donna doesn't expressly experience the Titanic thing. It's just a quirky little nod to the Christmas special, and I find it really cutesy. And then when the Doctor just goes, the bees are disappearing, and you're kind of like, you're just going to scoot over the Titanic thing, you're just not going to mention that.
I wonder what she was doing. I don't know if that's acknowledged that she was hungover or something. Was that a different?
No, that's a different.
I swear there's a.
No, I'm sure.
Somebody mentioned about something happening at Christmas and they were hungover and didn't see it.
No,
or
I
something
think
like that. I can't think of who it was.
I think that's after all the events of the series.
Maybe. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. So we've got Sarah Lancashire playing Miss Foster, the main big bad in this episode, and Matt Thomas on Spotify asked about whether we'd seen Happy Valley because she plays the lead in Happy Valley.
Oh.
I always thought it was the woman from Midnight, but it's not.
No,
it's Sarah Lancashire. It's Miss Foster.
Oh my God, she's... What? She looks so different. Hang on, I'm going to have to look at this now because I didn't recognise that was her.
Admittedly, she's in
She was in Coronation Street, wasn't she, or something?
Yeah, she was in Coronation. She's like High-Vis Police Fest and stuff, so her attire is very different to how she looks in this, where she's got her glasses, she's all very prim and proper, thin coat, all this sort of stuff.
And do you know what also? I think the difference is that because she's in all of her police gear in Happy Valley, her body shape looks entirely different, so I wouldn't have recognised that. Because she hasn't put, as far as I can tell, it's not like she's put any weight on or anything. It's just that she's dressed so differently.
The irony.
And her and her makeup is so different that I wouldn't look at it and be like, oh my God, that's the same person. But oh my God, you're right.
I've recognised her from Doctor Who, but my mind always went to Skye in Midnight, not Miss Foster in Partners in Crime.
Maybe it's just the blonde hair.
Blonde thin woman, That's basically all it is. But yeah, we haven't seen Happy Valley. So
no, sadly
no spoilers, but I know that people were going absolutely head over heels for it.
Yeah, but it's series 3. Which
it's done now.
I didn't realise. I thought it was the first time it had ever, but apparently it's been massive for years and I've just never really heard about it.
We don't really watch much TV outside of Doctor Who, to be honest. apart from you watching Nick Knowles and Stacey Solomon clear out houses and people
those.
adopting dogs in the dog's house.
If anybody hasn't watched Stacey Solomon's Sort Your Life Out in 7 Days on BBC One, please go and do it because it just is so wonderful. I love it.
We're getting rid of so much stuff because of it.
We are.
Honestly. But yeah, we haven't seen Happy Valley, but this takes us over to the sort of the fat of the episode, the actual plot.
The meat.
I could have said the meat, but the fat because it's adipose and stuff. Yeah. And there's been a few people that have asked about the plot elements in and of itself. Mm-hmm. I think it was somebody on Twitter. Yeah. Oh my goodness me, how am I going to pronounce this? Is it Lalexandrax? I think it might be.
Okay, good try.
If I've butchered that, then apologies. But they ask, why do you guys think the writers made the choice of Donna accidentally killing Stacey by twisting the necklace to introduce the adipose instead of another way of showing them being created?
I think it's supposed to imply the danger of the situation because you're always going to have that overarching sense of foreboding carried in a Doctor Who episode. No matter what episode it is, I can't recall an episode of Doctor Who where there's not been a life-threatening situation. And if there is one, I'm obviously just misremembering, but most Doctor Who episodes have an antagonist or a form of danger because it wouldn't be Doctor Who without it, really.
Well, there wouldn't be a narrative without it, really.
So, there's... I suppose, okay, you could have introduced them in a new way, but I don't think it would have held the same gravitas towards the end of the episode where the Doctor is getting really worked up because he hasn't got the second pill necklace thing. He hasn't got the second one to override it because everybody's going to die. It wouldn't have had that same weight to it if we hadn't already seen somebody disposed of. So I kind of get why she does it. And also it's that nonchalant thing of twisting the necklace without realising she's doing it that causes it, and then it introduces the idea of the necklaces being bonded to the host.
It's kind of odd because surely if Donna would just sit there and twist a necklace, surely then, because obviously you get one
people would have done it.
Most people would have done it. So it's one of those things when we watched it back, it's kind of like, actually, this is a bit strange because surely then more people would have just gone, missing
it twists,
because of it. Yeah, I'd sit and I literally still have a fidget spinner in my desk because sometimes if I'm like playing with a pen while I'm working, sometimes I'll go, I should put my pen down and pull my fidget spinner out and use that because it is what it is. Like more people would do it, but I think doing it in the way they did, in more of it's not necessarily an antagonistic way, but because obviously at the same time you've got the Doctor with that bloke, and you've got Donna and Stacey together. The exposition you're getting from the Doctor and this guy is the fact that obviously the guy's burglar alarm gets set off, the Fat just walks away, you realise that strap line for Adipose Industries is truth. They lead you down this this path, and then obviously Donna doing that, Stacey gets adiposed, and then obviously it triggers the alarms at HQ, and she dissolves Stacey entirely. If, for example, you took that particular thing, because you get that implication that it happens overnight, it happens when people aren't paying attention to it. If they'd have just done it where they just showed Stacey in bed, or this guy in bed, and out pops an adipose and off it goes through the cat flap and sets the alarm off, it doesn't have, as you say, doesn't have that same gravitas to it, because it feels more like, well, it's not necessarily body horror because the result of it is so cute, which is a strange thing to say. However, because it happens while she's conscious, while she's there, and she's like, oh my god, what's going on, you do have that slightly more family-friendly body horror vibe to it than just being matey boy adipose pops out of your bum while you sleep and off it goes. And you almost, it seems like a less antagonistic, less aggressive thing.
But also,
when it's done, if it's all done passively like it should have been if the Doctor and Donna hadn't got involved.
But also, I feel like the Doctor has the means and the kind of knowledge to be able to work out what's going on for himself, like with the burglar alarm, with the cat flap, with saying the fat just walks away and that kind of thing. Whereas Donna, I don't think, has those connections to be made because she isn't investigating in the same way that the Doctor is. So because if this had happened to the Doctor, it wouldn't have happened in the same way because he's already kind of aware that the situation may be dangerous. Whereas Donna doesn't. I don't think she has that overarching knowledge that there could be people in serious danger. So I feel like it needed to happen to Donna because Donna is the one that has that nonchalant brain that kind of would just sit there and fiddle with something, whereas the Doctor wouldn't necessarily fiddle with something he's taken from essentially evidence. And Donna needed that nudge to be like, hang on, something's going on, this isn't right.
Like, I should pursue this lead because there's something alien going on, especially since she did see an adipose, and therefore, if it had turned out that it was something a lot less like dangerous, she'd have gone, this isn't a lead, it's not worth pursuing. Let's go sneak into somewhere as health and safety somewhere else. For example.
And so I think it needed to happen that way for Donna to be aware that she needed to go back, because she goes home, she gets hounded by her mum. And then she goes back the next day, and I think that kind of proves that it mattered to her that Stacey got, like, mulched, essentially. So, yeah, I think it was the appropriate way to deal with it, honestly.
Yeah. So Nathan on Spotify has asked a very good question, which I spotted as it came through. And it's very much a question that more applies to how we perceive things today so much to how we perceive things back in 2008. So he asks, do you think the handling of being fat and weight loss is done well, or do you think it comes across as somewhat phobic? And that's why I've said that looking at it, if you look at it within the time capsule of 2008 versus how we look at things now, media and everything basically is usually under a hell of a lot more scrutiny. And I wouldn't remember because I wasn't aware of anything like this when we were 12.
Well, yeah.
But even looking at like Wikipedia and the TARDIS wiki and just general reviews of the show, not many people sort of jumped on whether you would take the concept of adipose industries and this arc, this plot point, and treat it like it's a comment on society. Obviously, there is that little prod at society about obesity, but if I remember rightly, back then in the UK, childhood obesity and obesity in general was a really big thing.
Yeah.
It still is to some extent, but I don't think you really see it as much in the news anymore. Probably because there's always that potential of somebody turning around and saying, well, that's pretty fatphobic in my opinion. And in this current age of, I don't want to say cancel culture, that's not at all what I mean, but like that scrutiny, when it comes around to like the quote unquote phobias that people would normally apply to media, to politics, to whatever, you know, you've got there's ones that I would argue are very cut and dry, black and white. You've got transphobia, you've got homophobia, you've got all this sort of stuff. Out of all of them that you see in modern societal discourse, fatphobia is the greyest of them all. Yeah. Because where really do you draw that line as to what would be considered fatphobic and what wouldn't be?
And it's
like
a bit...
this.
Sorry.
I was like, this plot in 2008 would have basically just been jumping on, as the reporter says in this episode. Are you just another scam artist trying to get money out of people who want to lose weight but don't necessarily want to make the effort to lose weight? Are you just another diet pill that's doesn't work and maybe there's a placebo effect and people think it's working, or they believe in it so much they'll keep paying for it in hopes that one day they will start to lose weight?
Yeah. I think it's a very, like Rich said, it's a very difficult topic to discuss in terms of your opinions towards fatphobia, because I personally don't think that the episode could really be construed as being fatphobic. Mainly because...
I realise I didn't say that, but I agree.
Yeah, mainly because I think they do a very good job at having that reporter in place, because she is the purpose to the counter argument that kind of proves the fact that that's not the angle they were going for, because she sits there and she goes, do you not think that you're scamming us? Do you not think there's this and that? And that is the kind of side of the commentary that people would be wanting to see within a storyline that focuses around weight loss, because obviously it's important that weight loss is dealt with in a relatively sensitive topic, because if you want to lose weight for the sake of losing weight, that is absolutely fine. If you don't want to lose weight for the sake of losing weight, that is also fine. Like, we're not going to sit here and say that if you're fat, you're wrong, because that's not the case in the slightest. And I think that's not what the episode does. It doesn't sit there and go, people are wrong for being fat. It basically uses that inherent nature that there are always going to be people that want to lose weight, whatever the reason may be, whether it's for their health, whether it's for a medical reason, whether it's for the sake of just feeling better about themselves, whether they want to fit into something. Really doesn't matter why you want to lose weight. If you want to do, you can, as long as the pressure isn't coming from feeling like other people are forcing you to. And I don't think that's what the episode is talking about. It's basically, it never picks up on people, it never sits there and talks about the reasons why people are losing weight, and I think that's the key
literally
factor.
There's that one comment about obesity within society, and it's such a sort
throwaway
of
line,
irrelevant comment in the grand scheme of things. All it is an observation of society at the time, and society in general.
And I love the fact that Stacey is like, yeah, I'm going to go and dump him actually, because I can do better than him now, which is, you know,
fair enough.
Fair play if that's what you if that's what you
we just put a marker in my thing there, just in case.
If that's what you want to do, then more power to you, you know. So no, I think it handled it quite well. I think it uses that kind of comedy element as well to take your mind off the social commentary side of it, because most of it just focuses on these cute little fat balls that wander away.
It's an almost irrelevant part of the plot, and the fact that also in terms of like a representative sense, the fact that not everyone who is being shown as using adipose pills are all people who are
morbidly
grossly obese,
you know,
for example. Like, they're not, you've got, like I said, you've got Matey that the doctor sees. He very much just looks like a guy who just wants to lose a bit of weight. Like, fair enough. As you say, the stance of the episode, the way that it runs with it, it doesn't actually at all lean on a big societal commentary or trying to frame people who are wanting to lose weight as like demonizing them, or making it like
the be all
throwing
and
in
end
throwing in an alien like slant on something that people already talk about, like in a potentially taboo sense anyway. By today's standards, as I said, hence why I wanted to sort of make that differentiation of 2008 versus now. There will be people who will see anybody losing weight as being fatphobic, because that's why I said that it's a very grey sort of societal phobia, because some people will take anything to do with weight loss and they will just go absolutely
hell for leather.
The pun. They'll go ham on it. That's a terrible pun, but that's the dialogue that came out of my mouth. But like that's how some people would perceive anything like this. Any even mention of weight loss, irrelevant of people's context, they'll say that's not okay, because you should be proud of who you are. Blah, blah, blah,
and the thing is, you're okay
to
be proud of who you are, but if you want to lose a bit of weight, there's also nothing wrong with that.
Don't attack people for it. And I think that's, while that is a completely fair question from Nathan, it's not a stance I'd ever even considered with this episode, probably based on how irrelevant the actual people wanting to lose weight
side of things really is.
Side of that plot, it's so irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. As you say, it's all about aliens and people being turned into little things. Like, that's the crux of it. But by today's standards, it's like, as we discussed in the Q&A podcast, I think it was it the Q&A podcast about warnings before things that were that potentially have more questionable comedy, or
no, I think it was in an actual episode. I
know
remember.
We talked about it.
But anyway, I know what you mean.
Either way, like, it's that same kind of thing. It's just, this is how things were. It's how things still are. People are still wanting to lose weight. So
I mean, I've recently lost like 1.5 stone because I just felt uncomfortable with where I was getting to. But that doesn't mean that I would shame anyone if they didn't lose weight.
Yeah, and nor should people like Amy who are losing weight should be shamed for losing weight.
Exactly.
It's completely their decision. So it's very much a grey area in the grand scheme of things. If you want to construe this episode as fatphobic, then fine. But I think you're taking things too far in that regard. But it's a good question from Nathan, to be honest. It was when I saw that one come through, it's like, that's going to be a good one.
It's definitely a
to
discourse
talk about.
opener for sure.
Yeah, very much. And if there are, I would be genuinely intrigued to hear what you guys think about this particular question as well. So you can tweet us at Kasterpod, Kasterpod, on Twitter, or of course you can submit a response to the question, the Q&A thing, if you're on Spotify, on this, or in the YouTube comments if you want.
Oh, joy the YouTube comments.
Sorry?
Oh, joy the YouTube comments.
Oh, we love it. Like, I'm genuinely, obviously, while the Q&A on Spotify, for example, is more so for next time's episode, Fires of Pompeii, it's a really interesting question to hear, and I'm intrigued to know what other people would think. Amy and I's stance on it is very much the same as really our stances are on Doctor Who, to be honest.
But also,
to
those people who do comment really nice things in the YouTube comments, thank you. It's really appreciated.
We always
didn't
look.
mean that against you. I just meant YouTube comments as a whole on the internet are usually the place for trifle. But you guys are all quite lovely. Yeah, well, I was torn between trifle and tosh, but I went for trifle.
Tripe.
Trifle.
That's what you
but
need.
trifle, because it's food.
Trifle. Speaking of, let's talk about somebody else. And that is a very, very special person who, obviously, we'd seen Sylvia. We see her a bit in this episode, but we also get the revelation that old matey in the newsstand from Voyage of the Damned
is
Donna's granddad.
Wilf.
And that's Wilf. Obviously, Bernard Cribbins,
Cries.
may he rest in peace.
R.I.P.
He did indeed. He did leave us towards the end of last year, which was devastating.
Absolutely
honestly,
gutted.
He's one of those people that you just want to live forever, because he sounds, I think we did discuss this during Voyage of the Damned anyway, that he just sounded like such a sound bloke. Like everybody who posted about him when he died, and even just general interviews with people who've worked with him in the past, he said, like, honestly, dude loves his craft.
Yeah.
Such a sound bloke. Please, like, don't ever leave
him,
us.
Yeah.
And he never will leave us. He's always going to be here. He's always going to be Wilf. And, you know, we've got him back for the 60th. He did the 60th just in time by probably a few months before he unfortunately passed away. And just, like, obviously seeing him with Donna before Donna realises the Doctor is so close, it was sweet. But seeing him at the end of the episode when Donna's in the TARDIS and you see how excited he is, we're both there, like, welling up.
I literally cried,
why is this getting to me?
Like, I'm welling up now just thinking about it. Like, I literally cried at seeing how happy he was, because I just pictured, like, your own grandparents and just that really warming feeling of knowing that they're proud of you and just so excited for you. And it just I'm literally nearly crying again now, like, what is happening?
And it's also because, obviously, with the beauty of, like, foresight, we know where Wilf goes. We know how important he is to the Doctor. We know how important he is to Doctor Who as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, arguably, you take any companions of the new era, even if just of all time, and, like, you'd say who's the best companion of Doctor Who, full stop. Wilf. He's made such an impact on the character, on the audience, just by being a lovely bloke with his head screwed on straight and just love for his family and the people around him, and the amount of respect he has for the Doctor. He just was this character that everybody loved. So seeing Bernard Cribbins in the 60th in a wheelchair, as far as we know from set photos and stuff, irrelevant of that, it's going to be a very emotional time.
Yeah.
And seeing Wilf back in this, it's so lovely, and we get a lot of Wilf over this series. And obviously he basically is a companion come the specials, hence why you could class him as a companion.
I love him.
If he's credited in 3D at the start of the episode, he's a companion.
I love him.
So he's up there, and seeing him back again, it's so nice, because, as you say, we've all had that kind of grandparent. There's pictures of my nan all over our house.
I really need to print out a picture of my nan and granddad.
She was so special to me, and in the same way that we see Wilf in that same light. So having him back for this series is going to be so lovely and so devastating as well, because, as said, every time he comes on screen, we're going to be there like,
cry.
Oh no.
It's so hard.
I mean, even if he hadn't have passed away, you'd still feel the same way, because he just was such a shining light in Doctor Who. So yeah,
Bless
having
him
back is going to be great. Aww. Logan asks a question that I don't really want to answer, which is, if Bernard Cribbins wasn't available to play Wilf, who would you have cast in the role instead?
Oh God, I don't even think I would have had anyone.
The only thing I could think of, if you think of people from that era who did, you know, comedy and stuff like that back in the you know, 60s, 70s, 80s, I would have probably picked... A Python would have been probably too much of an ask. Mm-hmm. I think people wouldn't have been able to put the Python, the character beyond the Python. Yeah. Well, I know that the Pythons have done a hell of a lot of stuff. In case you don't know who I'm talking about, the Monty Python troupe. Mm-hmm. There are unfortunately only 4 of them left, as Terry Jones unfortunately passed away in 2020, a couple of years ago. And obviously Graham Chapman passed away in the late 80s, early 90s? I think it was.
I haven't got a clue.
But like one of them, for example, or one of the goodies, imagine like Bill Oddie or Graham Garden playing Wilf. I feel like that would be the same kind of vibe. I would say Tim Brooke Taylor, but unfortunately he has also passed away as well, which is I always forget about, and then I remind myself, and then I get really sad. Because I loved the goodies growing up. Absolutely loved it. I still do. It's still really, really good. I still show him clips of the goodies from time to time.
Yeah, he does.
I feel like it would be an actor like that, because obviously they'd be the right kind of age to do it.
Yeah.
And the right kind of comedic style, because while Wilf is a very light-hearted and there are moments when he's quite comedic, he can still do the fatherly stuff. It's kind of just a given of being an older actor. You can just kind of portray that love. That I think Bernard Cribbins' passion for his craft worked so well in being Wilf.
Yeah.
Because he loved... Like, he would have just... That reaction he does when Donna's up in the TARDIS, like, that would have been a genuine reaction of just Bernard Cribbins getting to do more work and being in Doctor Who, which obviously he did back in the 60s when he did the second Peter Cushing movie, which obviously I absolutely adore anyway. So...
Yeah.
Yeah, I would probably go with... If I had to pick, I'd have to go with Graham Garden, because I love Graham Garden. I've loved him in the goodies as the sort of... As kind of the straight man in the group, but also very much not the straight man in the group, which, in case you know what the straight man is in terms of comedy, is the serious person.
Yeah.
But he kind of has that slant because he's the scientist, he's the smart one of the 3, yet he still very much does some silly stuff. I think he would have been very, very good.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see him in Doctor Who. I mean, I love Graham Garden anyway. He's going to be one of those people who would be up there for me when he unfortunately passes away, whenever that may be, in the same way that we have with Bernard Cribbins or Robbie Coltrane, for example. Like, when they passed away, it was a huge, very, very saddening loss. Yeah. For me, it's going to be Graham Garden and Dick Van Dyke. Man who's just come off Masked Singer at 97, still loving what he's doing and still doing so well at 97.
I mean, that's incredible.
Like, what a guy. I am going to be distraught when Dick Van Dyke dies.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah, that's who I think I would go with. Wilf. But at the end of the day, you can't think of anybody else.
No, like, Bernard Cribbins is just perfect, so perfect for the role.
Absolutely. It's gonna be so hard for the 60th.
Oh God, it'll be fine.
Frank on Spotify asks, Donna is my favourite Doctor Who companion, and I can't wait to see her back in the 60th anniversary. And what is your favourite Donna moment in this episode, and what do you most want from Donna in the 60th?
I genuinely think my favourite Donna moment is when they're doing that window to window, like, charades, game of charades kind of situation where they're trying to work out what the other one is saying and they're having that full conversation. I love that whole sequence because it goes on for longer than you expect it to, but that's when the comedic element comes in of them sort of going, oh yeah, there, and then she turns to see them and they're all just staring at them. It's like,
that's a good,
it just makes you wonder how long they've just been stood there watching them, like a teacher moment.
You can actually hear the conversation happening in the background, and eventually it dies off.
But it just makes me laugh so much because it's like a teacher when the students think they're getting away with something and the teacher's just stood there watching
and
them.
they look up and the teacher's just staring at them.
Just makes me laugh
the chill
so
that goes
much.
through your spine when that happened when you were at school.
It's just funny. I think that's probably my favourite Donna moment because it's just...
I would agree with you on that. Maybe also, again, any scenes with Wilf and Donna together because you know their relationship is so strong and they do it so well. And there will be in terms of like behind the scenes stuff, Catherine Tate will have, as basically everybody did, so much respect for Bernard Cribbins that you can see that when they are acting together, that there's this. I think it's very easy for Catherine Tate to be able to be showing so much love and respect to somebody who had probably inspired her when she was young, watching TV and going into comedy and stuff like that. So and as I said, because I was never a big fan of the mega theatrics from Donna in The Runaway Bride, seeing her a hell of a lot more subdued and showing some more genuine character, for lack of a better phrase, that I really appreciate out of Donna, because they're the things that eventually turn me around on the character.
Yeah.
So that's really good. So for the last little thing we're going to talk about today, I think we need to talk about where things are going to go, because I hadn't really clocked this. While I knew that obviously by the end of the episode we have Rose appearing, that was pretty big. Like, that was a big, okay, how? And then she obviously fades away as she walked away. I forgot about the bit she fades away.
Yeah, me too.
I forgot about that. But the fact that she's there is obviously pretty big. But then really the amount of stuff they start throwing at you while you don't necessarily realise it.
Oh, not at all.
The number of things that get planted in this episode,
like little
that come
nods.
back to haunt you, for lack of a better phrase, by the end of the series. There's so much going on, and we've both been very critical about when episodes do a lot for exposition and a lot for just planting seeds, waiting for them to grow if they ever do grow. And while this episode does a lot of it, as I said, on the DL, you don't really realise because you've just heard something. It still does a hell of a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, sorry.
You've got Rose, obviously at the end of the episode. That's the big. Okay, here's the sledgehammer to the face. You're going to need to remember this, and not like you're going to forget it. You have the comment on the bees disappearing.
Yeah, which is a big one.
Which is obviously a big revelation. Like, it's a crux point of pointing the narrative in the direction it goes come the end of the series, and how they actually overcome their threat.
Yeah, and I also
you have
it because it's so woven into that little bit of comedy in the middle, you almost think it's just like an off-the-cuff comment where he's just like, the bees are disappearing, what are you on about? And yeah, you don't really realise that what it leads into.
Yeah. You've also got the fact that the adipose breeding planet disappeared, and the Doctor says, how do you lose a planet? Obviously that's going to come back. And then, of course, when we get back to the car and the TARDIS, Donna's like, it's destiny. It's like, okay, there's 4 huge things that you may not realise to begin with, and that are
the Atmos
coming back through.
In the
taxis. And the Atmos stickers, of course.
You've got those thrown in really, really subtle shots. They're just in the bottom. And because we've watched the series before,
there.
we obviously know to look for them. But if this was your first time watching Doctor Who, you would just think it was just a weird, like, you wouldn't even notice it. Like, it's such a
it's no different from like
shot.
Vote Saxon stickers in the background of shots during Series 3, or I mean, the mentions of Torchwood were a bit more
on the nose,
a little bit more explicit in Series 2, and obviously Bad Wolf was pretty subtle at times in Series 1. Like, when you get to the end of the series and it's like, here's a flashback sequence of all the times you hear Bad Wolf, like on the Bad Wolf channel in The Long Game, or Bad Wolf 1 Descending in Dalek. I never clocked that when I first watched them through. So, but for this particular arc, looking back at it, it's like, okay, while, as said, it's not all, sharped onto at the back of a spade and you're slapped across the face with it, there is a lot of stuff going on. And especially when it came to the end of the Russell T Davies era, and it's one of those, as much as I'm a big Russell T Davies simp, as you all know, I did have a problem with just how much sort of volume a series arc got in by the end of his series.
Yeah.
They got a lot more explicit. They got a lot more, dare I say, silly, at least in the way that they were planted. And this arc, as I said at the top of this episode, this arc in particular, I'm not a massive fan of in the way that it was portrayed through the course of the series. So looking back at this episode, while as a standalone episode in and of itself, as we've discussed, it's great, because you don't have to do lots of introductions. You can just get into the meat of it, but they still don't just go, here's the Doctor running away from something immediately like they sometimes do in Modern Who. Like, here's just let's wean you into it, but let's give you some time to get back into the mindset of, okay, we've got the Doctor, he's already onto something, here's Donna, she's onto something, their paths are going to cross, let's see how much we can cock tease the audience until it actually happens. So, and fair enough. And, you know, we've talked about the actual weight loss arc, we've talked about the villain, you know, really all that's left is literally that whole lot of stuff that you get lodged with, even if you don't realise it, which could be down to it could be construed down to clever writing, which I would argue it is. And it's not just super explicit the whole time.
No, and I mean, to be fair, if you watch this episode on its own and you don't watch any others, none of that would matter. Like, it's all just offhand little comments that work their way into the storyline, that work for this individual story, but also work in the grand scheme of the overarching plot. So if this was the only episode of Doctor Who you watched, you wouldn't think anything of it. It would not make a difference to you. The Atmos stickers you wouldn't notice, and the bees disappearing would just be a funny comment. Like, the planet disappearing would just be the reasoning for the adipose trying to invade a level 5 planet. Like, it's not imperative that all those things are mentioned for the sake of the overarching plot. They just weave themselves nicely into the episode, but I think it works really well that they do then work their way into the overarching plot. And I think the fact that they're all mentioned in one episode means that you're not going to be looking for every single one of those. Obviously, the reason we're looking for them is because we've watched the series before several times. We know what's coming. We know what we're looking for. But on a first watch through, you would not be sat there thinking, oh my God, they've mentioned so many things. Like, which one of those things would be the thing to follow? Yeah. It's not like you're sitting there pinpicking everything apart. I mean, some people obviously do, and that's how people discover Easter eggs and things like that. But it's the sort of thing that's done really cleverly and really subtly that you wouldn't even think it would be out of place in this episode.
You wouldn't clock it on the first watch through, but going back, it's like, okay, that's a lot. Like, even things like the throwaway, the bees disappearing, at least throwaway until the Shadow Proclamation, like, that could have been in an episode's time or 2 episodes' time to be mentioned, for example.
But I think it throws off the scent.
That's a retrospective take rather than a first time watching take, because as you say, you probably wouldn't clock this planet disappearing. I mean, the planet disappearing maybe, but the bees disappearing, throwaway line, something funny, sounds funny, and was relevant at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the bee part, I think that's why it would have been so odd to hear it in the TV show, because I think at the time I do distinctly remember that the bee pollinations in the UK were struggling because of the use of pesticides and things like that. So it was relevant. So it would have meant that you wouldn't have thought anything of it. It would have just been a quirky little nod to the time that you were living in. So the fact that they use it as this kind of weird plot line thing that obviously we won't spoil, but comes back towards the kind of overarching plot is like, what, really? You're going to latch onto that?
Yeah, it's a lot. And this actually answers Charlotte Samantha's question on Spotify as well, asking, they set up a lot of threads in this episode, bees disappearing, lost planets and Rose. Do you think there were too many of them and were they all needed? I think while they're all relevant, I feel like they could have spread them out a bit more. Rose is a big one. That should have stayed, because we don't see Rose again until midnight, I don't think, unless I'm wrong.
Not sure.
I can't remember. I mean, somebody on Twitter said the same thing. I swear I saw somebody say that on
Twitter. I don't know.
Was it on Anchor? I think it might have been.
Not know. I personally don't think.
Yeah, Oscar said that Rose's random appearance at the end was too soon. We don't see her for another 10 episodes until she tries to communicate with the Doctor via that screen, that quick shot of the screen in midnight. Yeah. So I get it. There's a lot of stuff going on. It was all done with good intentions, but we'll go on more about the arc by the time we get to the end of the series.
I don't know. So, I think I quite like the fact that they're all in one episode, because it means that you don't have... In Rose's series, you had Bad Wolf basically once per episode. In Martha's series, Vote Saxon was everywhere, and if you noticed it, you noticed it. But I think the fact that in this series, Russell basically kind of was like, do you know what? We're just going to put it all in one episode, not make any obvious nods to it, and then people can literally be like, oh, they mentioned that in like episode 1, and you would be like, oh my God.
Like I said, it's more of a retrospective take than it is about like thinking of it objectively if you were watching it for the first time. Yeah. So Partners in Crime. It's a really good start. It reintroduces Donna in a much, much, much better light, and I'm more excited to see how things go going forwards. Obviously, Fires of Pompeii, Donna's got a pretty prominent
Role.
sort of turning point for the Doctor in that particular episode, which of course we'll get to next time. But there's one tiny final thing I want to mention. Somebody, I'm not going to name them because it's unfair.
Okay.
Somebody on Spotify asked about doing a list on Who Culture. About doing top 10 Donna Noble episodes.
Oh, as in, can you do one?
Yeah, can I do that? And I'm like, it just brings up, bear in mind, this hasn't happened for a good few years where somebody's gone, hey, you should do this on this channel. And I'm like, I don't work there anymore.
Yeah.
This hasn't happened for a long time, but it's quite odd that it still does. That people are still, like, we still get people who are like, oh, you know, you should do this on the gaming channel, or why don't Ben and Peter do this? It's like, they've not been at What Culture for like 6 years now. But people just are so out of the loop on things. So just so, in case you are listening, I'm not going to name and shame you. I don't work there anymore.
And he hasn't done for 2 years.
Whatever Who Culture do, it's not my doing. If you see me on Who Culture that isn't something I've recorded specifically, it's been re-uploaded. And while I am doing my YouTube stuff more frequently now, youtube.com/pickupchangetoe, because they finally made usernames like a thing.
I noticed that.
It's taken YouTube long enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should just be able to either you can search for Rich Hudson or you can look for Pick Up Change Toe. All the Kasterpods get uploaded there. And if you are watching on YouTube or you haven't been watching on YouTube, again, look at the new intro. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
I'm so proud. It looks so cool. Thanks. That's how things are. So I'm making more YouTube videos now. I'm putting more time aside in the week to do them, even if it's just being able to write for the night. That's what I've been doing more so recently. So I'm still going to try and turn around more Doctor Who videos aside from just uploading Kasterpods and losing subscribers because of it. YouTube.
Yeah, sorry, pal.
That or just doing episode reviews as and when they happen, because obviously we're going to be waiting till at least November for this to happen for more episodes. So we'll get to that when we get to it. But that is about it for this time for Partners in Crime. We're into series 4. Here we go. Last
boys.
Full series for big old 10, and also for Russell.
Christ.
For now, and same with Donna. For now, oh my word. There were a few questions about the 60th more so, but we'll have to get to those at some other time. So if you do have any questions for Fires of Pompeii, then please let us know in the comments. If you're on YouTube, you can tweet us at Kasterpod on Twitter, or you can, of course, if you're on Spotify, which I know most of you are based on our analytics, you can click the little Q&A box thing on the Spotify page and you can leave us a question, comment, whatever there. But if you want to speak to Amy directly,
you can find me on
Instagram. Twitter things. No, Instagram
me things. Don't tweet me things because I never use Twitter. Instagram me at Ames_Elizabeth.
Whereas you can find me on Instagram and on Twitter and on YouTube, because I can say YouTube now, because usernames, at pickupchangetoe. So please do. And of course, at Kasterpod, Kasterpod on Twitter, if you'd like to send us tweets and things about Fires of Pompeii or general stuff, or tell us how cool the new intro is. You're welcome. Yes. But thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you in a few weeks' time, because we're going to stick to it. We're going to do it.
We are.
We're going to do it.
We're really trying.
We are indeed. But until we see you again, take care of yourselves, everyone. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.